The air in the courtroom was suffocating, a cocktail of tension and the clinical scent of legal documents. I sat like a marble statue, feigning calm, though my knuckles betrayed me as they gripped the aged leather of my briefcase. Across the aisle sat Amelia, my wife of 12 years, her expression unnervingly serene. Or perhaps, I thought bitterly, it was arrogance. She had lied, effortlessly weaving a tapestry of deceit under oath, painting me as an unstable, controlling husband. Her tale cast her as a victim driven into the arms of Chad, a narcissistic yoga instructor with the charisma of a cologne commercial. Watching her performance felt like a cruel theater, each accusation more calculated than the last. Her lawyer, a slick operator in a tailored suit, nodded at every fabricated word she spoke. Meanwhile, I remained silent, letting them build their illusion, brick by deceitful brick. They didn't know I had the key to unravel it all. Today, the stage was mine. "Mr. Henderson," came the sharp voice of Judge Eliza Monroe, her gaze piercing through the murmurs of the courtroom. "Do you have any further witnesses to call?" I stood, locking eyes with Amelia. For the first time, I caught a crack in her mask. Not fear, not yet, but unease. "Yes, Your Honor," I said steadily. "I'd like to call Ms. Sarah Jensen to the stand." A ripple of whispers echoed through the room as the heavy wooden doors swung open. Sarah entered with an air of defiance, her dark eyes blazing. My sister was a force of nature, unflinchingly loyal and armed with the truth. Amelia's reaction was immediate, a sharp, audible gasp that shattered her poised demeanor. Her face drained of color, panic etched into her features. Sarah took her place on the stand, her focus unwavering. "Ms. Jensen," I began, my voice even, "are you aware of the circumstances surrounding my divorce from Amelia Henderson?" "I am," she replied, her tone clear and resolute. "And are you familiar with the allegations Amelia has made against me?" "Very familiar," Sarah said, her eyes narrowing as they fixed on my wife. "And are you also aware of a certain Mr. Chad Miller?" A smirk played on Sarah's lips. "Intimately," she said, her voice tinged with a sharp edge. From her envelope, she produced a photograph, Amelia and Chad, side by side, checking into a hotel. Gasps rippled through the courtroom like a wave. Calmly, Sarah began to dismantle Amelia's lies. She revealed an arsenal of damning evidence, meticulously recorded dates, explicit text messages, receipts for romantic dinners, and even the key cards Amelia had hidden. Every detail was a knife, slicing through the narrative Amelia had so carefully constructed. With each revelation, the room grew heavier, the tension palpable. Amelia's composed mask cracked and fell, leaving raw panic and shame in its place. Chad squirmed, his face ashen, while Amelia's lawyer seemed ready to evaporate under the weight of the truth. Sarah ended her testimony with one final, cutting statement, her gaze piercing through Amelia. "My brother was never abusive. He was loyal to a fault, and she played him for a fool. She deserves no sympathy for the lies she's built her life on." The courtroom fell into a stunned silence, the only sound the judge's gavel striking wood. She should be ashamed of herself for all the lies she spun. The judge's piercing gaze landed on Amelia, who sat frozen, her expression as unyielding as stone. "Do you wish to cross-examine Ms. Jensen?" The judge's voice cut through the tense silence. Amelia, her voice barely audible, shook her head. Her spirit was drained. The fight had left her entirely. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Henderson, your sister's testimony has brought forth evidence of substantial importance. We will require time to review it. Court is in recess until after lunch." I nodded, my eyes locked on Amelia's slumped, defeated form. As I exited the courtroom, a strange emotion bubbled within me. Not quite triumph, but something eerily close. This was never about winning. It was about finally seeing the truth come to light. The rest of the day blurred past me. During lunch, I couldn't eat. Adrenaline still coursed through my veins. When the court reconvened, the judge delivered her verdict, her tone heavy with disappointment. The divorce was finalized. But more importantly, I was granted primary custody of our children. Amelia's dishonesty and erratic behavior were deemed a threat to their well-being. The court awarded me significant damages, too. Leaving the courtroom, I felt a weight lift. A burden I had carried for months was finally gone. But I wasn't done yet. I knew where Chad would be, basking in attention at the upscale bar he frequented. As expected, I found him perched on a bar stool, his smug aura as nauseating as ever. "Chad," I said, my voice cold and sharp. He turned, recognition and fear flickering in his eyes. "Henderson." He attempted nonchalance, but faltered. "Fancy seeing you here." "I've been meaning to see you," I replied, my eyes narrowing. I didn't waste time on empty words. Grabbing his collar, I hauled him off the stool, dragging him toward the door. He struggled, but my fury gave me strength. Outside, I slammed him against the wall, the sound echoing like a gavel striking. "You slept with my wife," I growled, my voice a dangerous whisper. "You destroyed my family, aided her lies, and thought you could walk away unscathed." Chad stammered, trying to apologize, but I silenced him with a punch to the jaw. His head snapped back, blood seeping from his split lip. Blow after deliberate blow landed, my anger finding release after months of suppression. The restaurant had gone silent, all eyes on the brutal spectacle. But I didn't care. This wasn't a senseless brawl. It was justice delivered with precision. When I finally stepped back, Chad crumpled to the floor, a broken shadow of his former self. His designer clothes were stained with blood and dirt, his face swollen beyond recognition. I stood over him, my chest heaving. "Stay away from me, from my children. You're a parasite, a disgrace. You will never forget this day." Without another glance, I walked away, leaving him a shattered shell. The once arrogant man who thought himself untouchable now lay discarded, stripped of his facade. In the days that followed, Chad's carefully constructed life unraveled. Social media was abuzz with condemnation. His polished image crumbled as people saw him for what he truly was, a deceitful leech. Amelia, too, bore the weight of her actions. She lost her children, her reputation, and any shred of credibility. The label of liar followed her everywhere, a shadow she couldn't escape. But for me, the focus shifted to rebuilding. I poured myself into being the father my children needed, into healing from wounds that had run too deep. Friends and family became my pillars, their love my refuge. Slowly, peace replaced the turmoil. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about truth, about allowing the consequences of their choices to unfold naturally. It was about reclaiming my dignity and moving forward, free of the darkness they had cast over my life. I hadn't just won a battle. I had won back my freedom, my family, and my future. And that, in the end, was the sweetest victory of all.